Israel, thank you for meeting with us today. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
So my name is Israel Olofinjana, and I'm from Nigeria. I'm from a tribe called Yoruba tribe, which is one of the main ethnicities in Nigeria. I grew up in a Christian family, even though I didn't become a Christian until later. But I had that Christian upbringing in that sense. I am married and have a son who is 9 months old.
And when did you first start to follow Jesus?
I was born in a Christian family. My mother went to a church that would be described as an African initiated church, known as AICs. So going to this church, I didn't really like it, but I had to go because it's my mom. It's an African mom. You have to go. But when I was 17, I had some crisis. In Nigerian system of education, in secondary school, before you move to the next year, you have to do tests and exams. If you fail, you repeat. So I had to repeat because I failed. That happened to me as well in primary school. And so as a result of that, I had to leave school and do some sort of extra lessons outside school. So that isolated me from my friends and network and people we used to do things together. So I started thinking about life and future and things. And it was around then I started going to church, a Pentecostal church. And there I made my commitment to Jesus on 31st of December, 1995. Now in African Christianity, there's something we call watch night services, which is you pray into the new year. And so it was one of those church traditions that we were having those services. And then I made my commitment to follow Jesus. And since then, I've not looked back. It's been great.
Can you tell us a bit about your church?
I'm the first African pastor the church has had. Started here in 2014. It's an exciting church because we have different nationalities. I think we currently have about 18 different nationalities, people drawn from different parts of Africa, the Caribbean, and Europe, and some parts of Asia as well. We also have different generation in the sense that we have a 95-year-old woman, and we also have a baby who is like 2 weeks old, and we have different generations. First generation Africans, second, third generation Africans, and Caribbeans as well. So it's an exciting place. We get about 150 people altogether if they come on a Sunday. And the leadership is very reflective of the congregation in terms of diversity. And we do a lot of youth work because we have a lot of young people. So I think we are very privileged to have a lot of young people in our church, which is exciting. And we also do some homeless work in the area.
What do you think is the importance of multiculturalism in the church?
I think it is important because it's a biblical vision. Oftentimes people think when we talk about churches being multicultural, that it has to do with political correctness. I don't think so. You only need to look at the Antioch church. The Antioch church was very mixed. They are Greeks, they are Jews, they are Romans, people from those backgrounds. And when you look at the picture that we have in Revelation chapter 7, verse 9, it talks about God's kingdom being different nations, tribe, and language. I think multicultural churches are preparing us for God's kingdom. It's a way of understanding that heaven is going to be very diverse. I suppose there will be shocks and surprises in heaven. People that we think, I'm not sure that person will make it, will be there. Roma will be there. Scottish, Welsh. It doesn't matter the divisions we have there. Whether you're a Remainer or Brexiteers, there will be those in heaven. So a multicultural church prepares us for all those kind of shocks and surprises. So I think God wants us to have it because God himself is diverse. The way I understand the Trinity is that God is 3 in 1, but within that, each person of the Godhead is unique and different, but yet with one goal. When you apply that to a multicultural church, it's the same. We have a vision that Christ is at the center, but we all come from different places, different perspectives. And I think because of that commonality, but because of that differences, we model what we call unity in diversity. And that's what multicultural church is about, which is why I think it's very important in today's world, especially in Britain today, where we have diversity of various kinds and levels. And the world again has changed. So we need multicultural churches, not because they are politically correct, but because it's God's vision.
What positive changes have you seen in Bible translation in Africa?
I think Bible translation in Africa has come a long way. I think going back to the days of the first African bishop, Samuel Ajayi Crowther, one of his legacies in Bible translation that he engaged with his team of African scholars was that it led to the deconstruction of the African mind and psyche. What I mean by that is that as African Christians and others began to read the Bible in their own language, they began to ask critical questions, which they didn't ask before. Questions such as, why do we have to be Victorian as well as Christian? Can't we just be Christian? Because when Christianity came, it came in the form of Victorian Christians, not just as Christians. So they have to dress like Victorians, speak like Victorians, and and everything that surrounds that culture. But as they began to read, they began to question some of the church practices, such as when people get baptized in those days, you were given a foreign name. You were given a different name. So even when we think of Samuel Ajayi Crowther, his name was actually Ajayi. Samuel Crowther was a name given to him at his baptism, which was named after one of the CMS missionaries here in the UK. Who was called Samuel Crowther. And so people began to question that as they read the New Testament, that, oh, hang on, people got baptized, but they didn't have to change their name. Where did that came from? And so you had people who decided there was actually a Baptist minister who was called David Vincent Brown, who, as he began to go on this understanding, changed his name from Vincent Brown to Mojola Agbebi, which is an authentic Yoruba name. So people began to question, and I think the long run of that Bible translation, apart from the fact that it made Christianity African and not just this foreign religion, the other thing it did was that it led to the deconstruction and eventually the emancipation of African countries. Because as people began to ask these critical questions, then they began to question colonialization, colonialism and imperialism, and why do we have to be subjugated, and in that sense. So Bible translation in Africa, it wasn't just a religious enterprise. It became a political tool that emancipated not just the African minds, but also their African countries. So you have Ghana becoming independent in 1957 and Nigeria in 1960, and then it continued. But you can trace some of those works back to Ajayi Crowther's Bible translation, which helped people to begin to look at Christianity in their own language and the New Testament text. And today, translation agencies are all over Africa. And I think what we now have today is that there are indigenous Bible translators now, which are across the continent. So continuing the work that Ajayi Crowther started.
And is there anything else you'd want to share when it comes to mission?
Mission is not just about what we do. It's not just about activity. Because I think one of the problems we have today in Christianity is that we feel we always have to do or justify what we do. Mission is about being. And what I mean by being is that it's a lifestyle. Mission should start with a lifestyle. How we live our lives, what our values are, and how that translates into what we do. So mission is not something we do short-term. People talk about short-term missions and long-term missions. I understand all those language. I'm not saying they are wrong, but I'm saying ultimately mission is about being. It's about who we are with God. It's about our values. It's about our character. And then that shapes every other thing that we do. Because oftentimes we want to do without getting all those things right, without being first, without being with God first before we be with other people or do things. And mission is not it's not per se. Yes, there is the element of going, there's the element of doing things, but we must be careful that we don't reduce mission to something we do 6 months in a year and then that's it. That's not the God's mission that we talked about. God's mission happens every day. It's 24/7. It should shape everything that we do and how we live our lives. So my emphasis would be that mission is about being, as opposed to just activity and being busy, just for being busy's sake, in that sense. So it's about how we think about God. It's about how we let God shape who we are. Mission changes us first before we change others. That's the way I say mission. And that's one advice I would like to give to anyone watching this video.